A lot of you may have seen this video, where Eric Van Wilderman goes through to see if every single RobTop level is possible with accurate hitboxes. While I think this video was really good, I was curious if I could push the accurate hitboxes mod a little bit further and see if I could get more levels to become possible. What I did not realize is, due to looking at all my options and seeing all the ways to push this and make these levels possible, I would end up breaking the game in a pretty fundamental way. It's not going to be very obvious that things are wrong at first, but as we progress and as I introduce more and more stuff, you'll understand that this is just a fundamentally broken experience. However, by the end of this, I'm happy to report that there will only be 3 levels that are actually impossible. What are those levels? Well, you'll have to watch the rest of this video to find out. Quick disclaimer right off the bat, the accurate hitboxes mod is flawed. Not every single hitbox is actually made accurate, and to be fair, a lot of these I'd understand being kind of difficult to make accurate, like the animated Deadlocked monsters. That would be pretty difficult to do. But oddly enough, these saws are not accurate, like they just missed these saws, and ground spikes are not accurate. However, I can just not go near the saws anyway, as if they had accurate hitboxes, so it doesn't end up hindering this experiment too much. Because as you're gonna see, this never really creates any problems. In fact, there's only one time it ever created a problem, and I just went in the editor and created the fixed hitboxes myself, so it didn't end up being a big deal. But just keep in mind that when you are looking at the level's hitboxes, if you ever see stuff like this, know that I am assuming that these have fixed hitboxes, and I'm going out of my way to dodge them as if they did, even though you can't see the hitboxes. In fact, I believe in a lot of cases you can't even see any hitbox at all on the 2.0 monsters for whatever reason. So just keep that in mind as we go, and with that being said, let's get into the first RobTop level and let's see if stereo madness is possible with accurate hitboxes. For those of you who have seen Eric Van Wilderman's video, you already know where this is going. The gate clicks.
Going for the coin because why not? Actually, stereo madness. Oh! Dude, it's too low! Look at that! As soon as you touch the little tippy tip of that spike, you're done. Wow!
You might be wondering, how in the hell am I gonna make this possible? Well, this is gonna require what is actually the most controversial decision in this video, and that is, I am allowing FPS bypass. Listen, I get it. FPS bypass is not officially in the game anymore, it is definitely a cheat, but also that doesn't really matter for the question we're asking. We're not trying to beat these levels fully leaderboard legit, we're just trying to prove that these levels are possible. If using FPS bypass is allowed on the impossible levels list to create macros, I feel like it should be allowed for a case like this. On top of that, anyone who has completed Denouement after it got rated would know that you can actually go below 240, and that does work in the vanilla game. You can play on 60 Hz physics in vanilla GD. You can't go below 60, unfortunately, in the vanilla game, but I still don't think that matters. I think we should be allowed to use every frame rate, even if it's above 240 and below 60, just considering what we're testing here. We're not trying to aim for legitimacy, we are literally just trying to see if these levels are possible. Now that being said, the gate clicks in Stereo Madness are possible on 60 FPS. And with that being literally the only obstacle that made this level impossible, Stereo Madness is possible with accurate hitboxes. Ignoring the joke in the community about Back on Track secretly being the hardest level in the game, like that old meme, ignoring that, most people say that Back on Track is easier than Stereo Madness, and I think it shows here because unlike Stereo Madness, Back on Track is fully possible in vanilla 240 2.2. Polargeist had a couple of issues going in. Right off the bat, this level contains several gate clicks, just like Stereo Madness, making it impossible on 240. At the very least, though, those gate clicks will again be possible on 60 FPS. This level also has the first instance of something we will be discussing a lot more later in this video, and that is anti-buffer. This setup only works on 60 TPS, but at least it does work. But what's odd is, while I can obviously do it there, that's if I don't hold. If I hold, suddenly it becomes impossible. For those of you who don't know, if you hold for 2 jumps in a row, the second jump you gain a pixel of jump height, and because of that, this means that I am 1 pixel away from dying on these. Exactly 1 pixel. And when I get that extra pixel of jump height, I die. On top of that, the third coin in Polargeist was giving me serious issues. While I don't necessarily care if I have to miss coins, the goal is just for the levels to be possible, being able to collect the coins is a huge bonus, so I did go for them. And if I could find a frame rate that made the coins possible, I usually went with it. Polargeist is the first level where that matters because, well... oh god. This would, of course, be a huge problem and immediately mean that the third coin is impossible. However, after playing around with different FPS values, I found out that it does work on specifically 55 TPS. Oh, 55, okay. After figuring all that out and botting the level on 55 TPS, I can 100% say that Polargeist with accurate hitboxes is possible if you are on 55 TPS. For whatever reason, Dryout was the most complicated level of this project. The fact I got this level to work is a fucking miracle, because the amount of issues that this level gave me is insane. Just to give you a couple of the highlights, the second coin is impossible on 240 TPS for a very bizarre reason. Okay, so the coin, and this is weird, so you can't drop down without the coin. Not possible. You can jump up here, and it's really precise, but this jump isn't possible even without buffering. You just die. You can't do anything about it. Weirdly, you can survive if you jump off of this into there, but if you look, when I do that, I'm jumping over the coin and missing it. So, up until this point at least, the level is possible on 240, but only if I miss the second coin. $55 FPS again, bro. What the fuck? Why is 55 FPS such a lucky number? Holy shit. Okay. Immediately after that, when I went back to 0 to try to bot it at 55 FPS, I discovered the most insane thing in this challenge so far. It won't be the last time I come across it, but it'll probably be the only time I have to address it to this extent, because it is insane that it can be this bad of a problem. You remember the original anti-buffer problem I showed earlier in the video where you gain an extra pixel of jump height when you hold? Apparently, on different FPS values, when you FPS bypass in 2.2, the amount of jump height you gain is actually increased depending on how much you change your FPS. This may not seem like a big deal at first, but then you realize scenarios like this are now going to pop up as a result. Whoa, 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 whoa. Uh-oh. No way, I have to anti-buffer all of those clicks. Oh, that's brutal. Wow. Making matters worse, the moment I figured out the whole thing with the staircase anti-buffer, I immediately found out right after that Dryout's first coin is impossible at 55 TPS. Which, if you'll remember, that's the frame rate I just found that worked for the second coin. Luckily, after all of that was said and done, after a bunch of experimenting, trying different TPS values, trying different methods, I eventually found out that the level worked on specifically 40 TPS, meaning Dryout is possible with all three coins at specifically 40 TPS. Thankfully, after that, base after base gives us a pretty major break. Base after base only has one problem, and that's a normal gate click at 50%, or a series of 3 of them, but whatever. It's the part where you jump over the yellow pads in the dark part. Other than that, the level was perfectly fine as long as you were on 60 TPS. Cant Let Go is also extremely simple. Simpler than base after base, actually, because this level is fully possible on 240 TPS. The one caveat being that the jump orb at 84% is nearly frame perfect, being comparable to the heartbeat yellow orb in 2.1. And now we have arrived at Jumper. Jumper is actually the first of the RobTop levels to be impossible with accurate hitboxes. The reason it's impossible is because to pass 44%, you need to be below 240 FPS. However, to pass 51%, you have to be on exactly 240 FPS or higher, meaning you cannot do both of these sections in the same run, which means the level's impossible. The farthest you can get into Jumper is 52%. Time Machine is also rendered impossible by accurate hitboxes. The jump at 8% is impossible on anything above 60 TPS, but the jump at 18% is only possible on 240 TPS. This means the farthest you can get in Time Machine is 18%. Cycles is a pretty simple one, but there is a fun and interesting twist on it. 24% on Cycles is impossible on anything above 60 TPS, as per usual, yet another gate click, so 60 FPS it is. However, interestingly, no matter what your frame rate, Coin 1 is completely impossible. So Cycles is possible on 60 TPS, but only without the first coin. Another incredibly simple one, xStep is impossible at 240 TPS because of a gate click at 56, but the level is fully possible on 60 TPS. Clutterfunk is a pretty easy one. 3% is a gate click, so it can't be done above 60 TPS, and 12% cannot be done 60 TPS or lower, so Clutterfunk is impossible, and you can only get up to 12%. Theory of everything is incredibly simple. It has a purple pad that acts like a gate click auto, but you know what I mean. Impossible on anything above 60, but other than that, the level is possible on 60 TPS. Electroman Adventures is interesting because 4%, which is not a gate click, is still not possible on 240 TPS. This is a unique scenario, and what makes this interesting is that the footage you're seeing right now isn't on 60 either. This is actually 144. For whatever reason, 144 works for this level. It works to get around the issue at 4%. Other than that, there are no other issues. The level just works, so that's cool. Alright, with Clubstep right off the bat, I'll just immediately point out that coin 1 is completely impossible. The spikes jut up just enough to where with accurate hitboxes, you will touch them. It is not possible. The screenshot I've been showing as an example of that is literally the closest I could get to making the gap. Right off the bat, the first click, the famous Clubstep monster, is a gate click, but it's actually a stricter gate click than all the ones we've come across before. This is not possible on anything 45 TPS and above. The highest TPS I could get this click to work on was 40 TPS. And well, yes, Clubstep is 100% possible on 40 TPS, albeit missing the first coin. I'd also just like to point out that when you get to this point with frame rates, down to the 40 TPS range, the physics just start to get so buggy. We saw warning signs of it earlier with Dryout, but with this level in particular, it's so finicky. Transitioning into the first ship is alignment-based and just throws you into the ground because the pads just don't work correctly anymore. It is a mess. It is so unstable, and I genuinely think the level would be significantly harder on 40, more so than you would expect. I'd also just like to point out that the UFO section at 54% is now ridiculously hard with accurate hitboxes, and looking at it, it's very obvious why, but my god, this is brutal. Things are gonna chill out for quite a while in this video, as several of these levels coming forward are all just straight up possible on 240 with no issues. Starting with Electrodynamix, I was very surprised this level had very few issues. I will say, I did have to do the thing where I had to wait a second to get a lower jump height for some things to work, but for the most part, Electroman Adventures worked fine, just slightly buggier. Fully possible in 240. Not much to say here, Hexagon Force is also possible on 240. It's genuinely just normal. Blast processing is yet another one that is just straight up possible on 240. I will say with this one specifically, some things do feel a bit harder. There's a UFO at the end that is pretty hard, but yeah, for the most part, this one is also fine. Considering how poorly Clubstep went, I am surprised to say that ToE 2 is also completely possible on 240 without issues. This one kind of blew my mind, I'm not gonna lie. There are a couple things here and there that are finicky, and there are a couple buggy bits here and there, but for the most part, it works perfectly fine. This is the first of the spin-off levels that we're covering in this video. The 7 Seas is fully possible on 240. Yeah, I know, anticlimactic. I don't have much to say about it. I brought up the spin-off levels, and that's like a special thing, only for them to just be possible with nothing for me to say about them, but, well, here we are. Similar to the 7 Seas, Viking Arena is fully possible on 240. I don't have anything else to say. And then to end off Geometry Dash Meltdown, we have Airborne Robots, which is fully possible on 240. Geometrical Dominator is fully possible on 240, but don't worry, things get interesting after this again. I know we had a long gauntlet of them just being normal and possible, but things do get interesting after this point. I will say, with this level in particular, the wave part at 83, I had to be extra careful because it had 2.0 monsters that don't have their hitboxes fixed despite the fact that they should. So even though the hitboxes weren't there, I tried to be extra careful to stay away from them to kind of fit with the rules of the experiment. Right off the bat with the Deadlocked, I had to manually fix the hitboxes for the saws during the boss fight part. As I explained way back at the beginning of this video, these saws do not actually have the fixed hitboxes for whatever reason, and because they are such a contributing factor to the difficulty, I took it upon myself to just fix the hitboxes myself, just to make sure that I tested this part properly. And I'm glad I did, because this UFO is fucking hard. Right away, at 11%, a pad shoots you right into a fixed hitbox and makes it impossible on everything 60 TPS and above, but thankfully it works on 55 TPS and so too does the rest of the level. Therefore, Deadlocked is possible on 55 TPS. I was originally going to show all of the GD World levels because I'm including the spin-offs and I wanted to show that these were possible as well. However, they're all possible on 240 in the most boring way. These levels are so wide open that they present no challenge. So you'd basically just be looking at the GD World levels normally, and yeah, this kind of fucking sucks, so it's not worth showing these. Just know that the entirety of GD World and the challenge is possible on 240 with nothing being buffed, no bugs, nothing. They're just normal. Interesting fact about Fingerdash is that the lava is actually just made up of alpha'd out spikes that you can't normally see. If you don't know where I'm going with this, there is a gate click at 13% where you cannot see the spikes, meaning this level is impossible on 240, but the entirety of Fingerdash is possible on 60 TPS. Not much to say about this one, really. Press start is fully possible on 240.
Press start. Continue.
Okay, so I honestly thought Nock Em's first coin wasn't going to be possible, because, like, look at that. You just get screwed, right? But, even though I'm on 240, and I haven't messed with frames, if I just do the thing where I wait on each click, it becomes possible. That is insane. Other than that wild fucking moment, Nock Em is fully possible on 240. The reason this footage is starting halfway through is because I'm showing something else. This is not the full run. What I gotta say right now is that Power Trip is not possible on 240 due to a click at 6% just giving you too much height no matter what you do. The level is possible on 144 with this in mind, however, the ending is not. There is a fall with a spike that is just slightly too low, and because of that spike, it kills you on 144. The only reason the level is possible on 144 is because you can take a secret way. I don't know how many people know this, but Power Trip does actually have a secret way, and you can take it, which does make the level possible on 144. However, I kind of want to avoid doing secret ways for this video, only because if I did allow them, Power Trip would be literally the only level that would use one. And the reason I can avoid it is because it is actually possible on a different TPS. Power Trip requires the incredibly low, barely functional 30 TPS. This is the lowest TPS value we will be seeing in this video, and it barely works. The game is so unstable at this TPS value that almost every single click is a anti-buffer. There's several parts where you have to hit pads in a precise way because pads are broken. It just generally does not work. 30 TPS is the legitimate way, quote-unquote. 144 would definitely be way easier, though, for what I hope is obvious reasons. One thing to note as well, though, is because of the click at 6%, this level is not possible at 240. The fall into the first coin path requires you to be on 240 or higher. Because of that, this level's first coin is completely impossible. And finally, we end on Dash, which is fully possible on 240 TPS. We're ending on an easy one.
Geometry Dash. Geometry Dash.
And it's with that that I can conclude that every single RobTop level, aside of Jumper, Time Machine, and Clutterfunk, is possible with accurate hitboxes. This was a pretty random video. It took me about 2 days to make, and I'm not gonna lie, this was a fun little rabbit hole to go down. If you all enjoyed it, maybe I could make a sequel to this video where I test random user-made levels with the accurate hitboxes mod. Let me know, I'm definitely down to it if you guys enjoy this video. I enjoyed making it, so that being said, I don't really have that much more to say. Thank you all for watching.